to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is episode 4. Steven's accused of homicide and the truth behind making a murderer's series that I'm doing a deep dive on right now. Where we left off last was Steven was out of prison after he was exonerated for a crime he did not commit, spent 18 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. There was sufficient evidence to believe that authorities knew he was innocent and let him sit in prison, even though they had an inkling that somebody else might have done it, like a confession from somebody. But anyways, they didn't care about that. We've got the right guy, they said. So that's kind of where we left off. And then Steven, we went through the civil suit that Steven put forth against Manitowoc County, the sheriff, and the district attorney, both individually and in their capacity as in their roles. So does anybody remember how much he was asking? It was $36 million. And because of what I'm about to talk about next, he had to settle for an extremely low amount considering what he was asking. And we'll get into that. So, by the way, this is just going to be voiceover for at least the beginning part. We're going to read some documents later, and I'll bring my webcam back on. But you guys don't need to see me right now. I mean, you don't need to see me ever, really, but that's okay. All right, so please, before we get started, please like this video. It really helps the algorithm. It helps other people besides my followers actually find it, because sometimes they like to shadow ban videos, and if more people like it, then it gets to more people. Also, please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, so you get all of the content on this particular case and others like it. We dive into a lot of wrongfully convicted people, like their cases, and also corruption and cover-ups and things like that we like to get into on this channel. So don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. All right, so this is episode 4, Steven's accused of homicide. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about who was Theresa Halbach. We already talked about Steven. We already introduced Steven and Brendan Dassey in episode 1. All right, so we're going to go over a little brief introduction about who Theresa was, and we're going to watch a video diary of hers. We're also going to do an overview, very high-level overview of this particular case, the Theresa Halbach case. We've finished going over the 1985 Bernstein case, and now we're on to the 2005 Halbach case. So we'll go over a little bit of that timeline and everything like that, and then we'll come back to those components that are important later and dive deeper into them. We're just kind of, like I said, going to do a high level introduction on what this case is. Hopefully you've kind of seen Making a Murderer and you remember some of these facts, and it's just a refresher. If not, that's okay too. You'll learn along with us. So we're also going to read the missing persons report and talk a little bit about the investigation into Theresa Halbach's disappearance, but we're not going to go totally into that. We'll do a separate episode just for the investigation, but we'll do, like I said, a high level. And then we are going to read the probable cause affidavit, which is what was used to arrest Steven Avery. That if you're not aware of what a probable cause affidavit, it is the sworn affidavit of the officer, the law enforcement official who was possibly heading the investigation, and it is his sworn word as to why he believes this person committed this crime and why he thinks charges should be um, charged against against the individual. So we'll get into that. So up first, here is a picture of Theresa Halbach. She is smiling, and in most pictures I've seen of her, she is smiling, happy. She looks, sorry, I gotta take my sweater off here. I'm getting warm. So she is, like I said, in most pictures she's quite happy and smiling, and she seems to be that kind of person that's always happy and smiling. So she grew up on a farm, a dairy farm actually, in a small town in Wisconsin. Most people probably already know she's a photographer, so she loved taking pictures, loved it, and she worked for Auto Trader magazine. And for you youngins out there who aren't sure what Auto Trader magazine is or what a magazine is, before the internet, before you sold everything on the internet, you could buy and sell cars in a magazine called Auto Trader magazine. And there were other ones like that, but Auto Trader was the big one around here too. But anyways, so she worked for Auto Trader. She would get an assignment from Auto Trader magazine saying this person at this address wants to sell their car. So she would go there, take pictures, bring it back to the magazine, and then she'd get paid, from magazine. So that's what she was working on at the time of her disappearance. She was a loving, kind, and positive person. No one had a bad word to say about her. Everyone just adored her. So one of the things that really struck me, and we'll watch it shortly in a video, she had always wanted to be a mom, and unfortunately she never got that opportunity. So that is it's kind of eerie, the video that we're going to watch. For her, it was a project for school or something. So we'll get into that in a second. All right, so she really seemed, in her videos, in her, her online social media presence and everything about her, she just seemed genuine. And she was also very artistic. She liked to see the beauty in things and see the beauty in people. She was close with her family. She had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. She also loved traveling the world. Also, she coached her little sister's volleyball team in her spare time, which just again shows how close she was with her sisters. She also liked to document everything with her video diaries and or pictures. Like I said, she loved pictures. She liked taking video diaries too of herself. She enjoyed documenting things throughout life. So there was one story that I had heard about her where she got a cat or took in a sick cat or something, and she continued to document its progress and just, it being with her over the time, however long she had it. She documented it in pictures. She was also known to be willing and ready to go sing in a karaoke song. And I'm not sure if she needed liquid courage or not for this, but I know I would. So, but she was one of those people that loved karaoke. I love karaoke too, but I need to be really, inebriated to to get up there and embarrass myself. Anyways, so and I don't really drink that much to begin with. So she had lived next door to her parents. So like I said, her parents lived in a dairy farm, and there was an old farmhouse. I don't know if it was on her parents' property or if it was next to and she purchased it. I'm not sure if she was living in it and it was her parents or what, but she was living in this old farmhouse next to her parents. So again, that just shows how close she was with her family, that she liked to be next door. At this point in time, she had a roommate named Scott Blodorn. Remember his name because we're going to come back to him at a later point in time. We also want to bring attention to Ryan Hilligas. I think I'm saying it right. This is a fellow high school student that Theresa had dated at some point in time. You know, they had, I think it was a little bit in high school and college, but he was still around in her life. So I'm not sure what their relationship was at this time. I don't know if it was totally platonic or if they were still kind of hooking up or what, but we know that he was still in her life. And as you can see on the screen, the gentleman pictured with Theresa is Ryan. So that's the ex-boyfriend, Ryan Hilligas, who had access to Theresa's phone information, computer information, just had information to a lot of things that an ex-boyfriend of mine would probably not have, but we'll get into him at another time. Also, one thing that I wanted to bring up too was, you know, she was very ambitious. She wanted to start her own business and she called it Photography by Theresa, which is a nice, simple name. All right, so continuing on with who Theresa Halbach was. Sorry, I need a hydration break. You should too. We all need more water. All right. So, she planned to work for the Auto Trader magazine until her business took off. So she was hoping to quit there eventually and have her business, her photography business, take off on its own. And she was actually right about at that point. She was starting to get overwhelmed with the amount of clients she had in her own photography business, but then also with all of these auto trader appointments, they were probably getting to be too much and getting to be in the way. So she did tell someone at work that she was planning on stepping back from the Auto Trader magazine. Another thing that is important, this is very important to our case because this could be a potential theory of what happened to her. So she also went on these things called hustle shots, which, so like I said before, normally the Auto Trader magazine would set up somebody would call Auto Trader and say, hey, I'm selling a car. Can you come out and photograph it? They call Theresa, hey, you free at 2? Okay, go. So then she drives over there and takes a picture, and then she brings that the film data back to, she on USB, I'm sure, or she emails it or whatever. She brings it back to her magazine, however they prefer it. So normally that's how it works. But these hustle shots are when she can go and just set up something with a customer. The customer can pay her, and then she can turn around and then go sell that photo to the magazine. So then she gets paid by the magazine too for turning it in. So she gets doubly paid. So she gets more money by doing this. So it is a better deal. Potentially, yeah, she can make a lot more money by doing these hustle shots. And one of the things about hustle shots that is important to note is that being with the Auto Trader magazine, people, being in this small town, people know who you are, and people could just flag you down on the side of the road and say, hey, my house is up the street, 2 blocks. Why don't you follow me? And I've got a car that's for sale. Can you please come and take a photo? And then he would pay her, and she could go back and sell it to the magazine for them to run it. So everybody wins. But as you can imagine, that is pretty dangerous, especially for a woman in her 20s and just a woman in general. And going to people's homes and going onto people's properties is dangerous. You don't know what kind of people you're going to run into. Some customers might be, in a ruse for, yeah, please come take my car, and I'm looking for a nice young girl to kidnap or whatever. So, I'd be scared. I would be a little scared in that position, especially the hustle shots. If I got flagged down on the road, I would be somebody flagging me down on the road. No, thank you. I'm going straight to the police station. Don't flag me down. I'm driving to get away from you, and if I can't, I'm going to the cops. Anyways, so she had another thing to note is that she had performed multiple photo shoots, at least 5, prior to the time that she goes to the Averys on October 31st, 2005. So this was her last appointment, like I said, in the day, and allegedly, I don't know if this is true because it is not necessarily, I don't know if it's corroborated or fact, but I did want to be fair and put it in there to both sides. I want to be fair. So allegedly, Theresa told a coworker that she was uncomfortable going over to the Averys because he opened the door in a towel. And again, I say allegedly because remember, Avery's cousin Sherry had a bone to pick with him, apparently, and so did Judy Dvorak, the neighbor across the street from him. Neither one of them liked him, apparently, and they were best buds, and he went to jail for 18 years because of it. So perhaps these rumors about him being weird, if they were unsubstantiated, perhaps this is a rumor that he opened the door in a towel. It could also be just a simple mistake, and he didn't have a robe, and he wanted to answer the door, and he didn't have time, and he just said, just a minute, like he just got out. It also could just be what it appears to be. Doesn't have to be anything nefarious, but everyone wants to spin it to be something horrible. All right, so anyways, Theresa, described by her friends, was the life of the party, a happy-go-lucky, typical Midwestern girl. They also said that she had an electric personality and a zest for life. So you can kind of tell that she does have, just by the way people talk about her, the way she comes off on screen. We're actually about to watch a video diary of her now. So let me get to that. And let's get that going there.
I love hugs. I have a theory that you need 9 hugs a day in order to feel love. I love being happy. I love knowing that I have nothing to complain about. I love knowing that my family is healthy, that I have a lot of friends. I love making people laugh. I love laughing. I love when people compliment me. I love the Beatles. I love God. I love knowing that I like who I am. I love taking pictures. I love holding a camera in my hand. I love kids. I love babies. I love traveling. I love talking about traveling. I love being myself with everyone I know. I love, no doubt, I'm going to funny. I love my sisters, my mom, my whole family, of course. I don't hate anyone. I love a lot of people. I feel love. Um, so let's say I die before I'm 31. I'm gonna die tomorrow. I don't think I will. I think I have a lot more to do. I just want to know, whenever I do die, I just want people I love to know that whenever I die, that I was happy. That I'm happy with what I did with my life. The only thing that could happen now is that I wish I could have become a mother. That's the one thing I've always known that I want. To be a mom. So, those are reasons for everything. I will be a good mom to you. I will. As long as I'm happy.
All right, sorry, my dog's just trying to bark too at the same time, so being annoying. All right, so we just saw a video diary of Theresa Halbach talking about what she loves and what happened, what she thinks about her own demise, I guess we'll say, for YouTube. So up next, what do we have? This was a quote by the aunt of Theresa Halbach that stuck out to me when I was doing some of my research, and it is: Theresa trusted the world and never thought of anyone as a bad person, which, after just watching the video that we watched and hearing that, it's just kind of ominous, thinking like she trusted everybody, like whoever it was that did whatever they did to her, she trusted them because she trusted the world. She was not one of those people that saw the world as out to get her. She trusted people and she loved life. And so it's very sad. So what happened to Theresa? She went missing on the afternoon / evening of, and I say that because we don't know for sure, of October 31st, 2005. She was last seen that afternoon, I'll say. So she was 25 years old at the time of her disappearance. So that's even more creepy watching that video when she says, if I die before I'm 31. So, well, she did, and that's kind of, that's why it feels creepy to watch for me. Anyways, so the last known whereabouts of Theresa was at Steven Avery's residence. He was the last appointment of hers for the day. And as you can see pictured, that is Theresa with her camera, thing she loved to hold, and behind her was her RAV4 car, which we will discuss later. All right, so Steven, because Steven was the last person to see her, he denied that anything out of the ordinary ever happened. He just said it was an ordinary visit, and she left, very shortly after taking the pictures. So let's hear.
There we go. Okay. So my first question to you is, how did you know Theresa?
Sorry, my dog was barking, so I had to mute myself. Um, the what we're about to watch is an interview with Steven Avery, and he is going to explain what happened, his interactions with. Yeah, here. That's okay. I was just checking to make sure I had the right one. So this is him going to explain his interaction with Theresa Halbach that day, the uh, October 31st of 2005.
Okay. So my first question to you is, how did you know Theresa?
Well, Teresa used to come out here all the time, take pictures of my vehicles, and she put them in a book.
Okay. So how long have you known her?
I've been using the book for a year, a little over a year maybe, somewhere in there.
And when she came out here, what's your all business? What was your personality like?
Same thing every time. Hi, how you doing? Mostly that, and say about 5 minutes, and out she goes again.
Okay. So how did you first hear that she disappeared?
When the cops came up by the house by my mom and dad, then they asked me if she was out here and that, and I said yeah. And then they asked me what time, around 2:30. That's what she mostly comes out, 2:30. Sometimes one time it was 3 o'clock.
And then when she left, which direction was she going? I mean, did she seem fine? Did she seem agitated?
Same thing, normal. Well, then she went out to the road and, she goes to LRB. I don't know where she goes, after that, because the field's all open, you can see. So
which direction was she going in?
towards LRB.
Okay. Did she mention any other appointments that day or anything like that?
No, I don't think so, because most of the time she takes a picture, then she runs down the serial number, then she comes and collects the money, and that's about it.
Okay. So what kinds of questions were police asking you?
This one she was out here with time, around, and that was about it.
Did they ask you to take a polygraph or anything like that?
No. Well, tonight the cops come and they asked me if I remember anything, and I told them no. And then they asked me if they can come in the house and check the house over. I said, I got no problem with that. Come on in. So they checked the house all over. Everything was fine, and they left.
If they asked you to take a polygraph, would you? Would you not? And why?
Well, I got nothing to hide. They want me to? I don't care. I'm just at home, work up there all day. I barely go anywhere. Once in a while, I go to Manitowoc and come back. That's about it.
So when you heard about it, how did you feel?
It's too close to home, something happening. It's not good. Everybody locks their doors now around here. It's pretty bad when something happens around here. I can see somewhere else, but this is too close to home. You get a little worried, and your family.
And does it? I mean, knowing her. I mean, what are your feelings for her parents? And
They must be going through hell. I figure my mom and my dad and everybody else, my family, they went through hell when I went did 18 years for something I didn't do. I figured they're going through probably the same thing because they lost somebody or whatever. She's got to be out there somewhere, so somebody should be looking.
Okay. So when she takes pictures of the car, how does she usually do it? I mean, just kind of the front angle, or what angles of the car does she usually?
Mostly from the front and the side. Stands right there. She drives up to it and takes a picture, and that's it.
Does it strike you as weird? I mean, do you think this is kind of odd?
Yeah. But there's stuff happening in the world all over. But this is too close to home for me. And I'm involved. I don't feel good. Then I got all the heat on me again. I did enough time. I learned my lesson. I didn't do nothing wrong. I mostly stay home, mind my own business. Now all of this is happening. Then I find out that she's out here, and now she's missing. I'm wondering the same thing. Where is she? Where'd she go? I know people run away, but there's got to be a reason. So yeah, I'm wondering about all of that too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You stay right there for a second.
They do it?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think everybody's wondering where she is. What make and model is it? 89. 89 what?
So they're off the mic, but you can kind of hear them. They're just talking about the car. I'm just going to end it because they're not going to... The interview's over, but the video just ended or continued. All right, so Steven denies anything happening. What do you guys think about his interview that you just saw there regarding his interaction with Theresa? It seems nothing was really out of the ordinary. I didn't find anything odd about his interview. Did you guys? I mean, he seemed genuine and he seemed concerned for himself because he doesn't want to be going back to prison for a crime he didn't commit again. Oops. Something's still playing in my ear. Hold on.
So, have they asked you to come in at all?
Where did it go? Okay.
Okay, Aaron.
Now what's new?
No, that was only my daughter.
Stop it. You weren't supposed to keep playing. Then I paused it. Okay. That's my back, my screen. All right, so here we are. We're back to the presentation that I made for you guys. Let me put it into full screen here. All right, so the search. There were actually multiple searches conducted by community search parties and law enforcement throughout local areas. The picture that you see in front of you on the screen is an overview aerial photo of the salvage yard, and that is pretty zoomed out, as you can tell. The cars are very tiny. So it is a very, very, very large property. So there were search parties, as I said, multiple search parties. So there were search parties that were consisting of Theresa Halbach's family members and friends that got together and were, putting out missing person flyers in the neighborhood and things like that. So her family members and friends were out there looking for her, advocating for her to come home and all of that. So they could not enter the Avery property without permission. So at some point in time throughout the search, they did ask for permission to search the Avery property. I don't know who gave it, but somebody did give permission. We also know that after they find Theresa's car throughout the search, the law enforcement basically kicks everybody out of the Avery property, including, everybody, parents, Dolores, and what's his dad's name? I can never remember. His parents, I can't remember. Sorry. Anyways, so the entire family is kicked off of the property. We know that the Dasseys live there. The Dassey boys with Barb and Scott Tadich live there also on the property. So they kicked out everybody on the property, asked them to leave, and they searched the property for 8 days. 8 days of exclusive possession of their property. You tell me that things can't get planted in 8 days? I mean, it really doesn't take a lot to plant something, does it? It really doesn't. You could do it in front of another officer's face. Just do it slickly, do it all slick. And, shake out a cabinet and all of a sudden a Toyota RAV4 key jumps out. Miracles happen every day. So eventually, they are looking for any sign of Theresa, her car, her property, her body. At this point, they're looking for her alive. So I want to escape here again and go to, sorry for the flipping, but here's a quick little news nugget I wanted to share. So this is an aerial overview again of the Avery property, talking about, searching this Avery property here, the news.
The search for clues into Theresa Halbach's disappearance continues. We bring you pictures from the sky, an aerial view showing officers combing the area where Steven Avery lives in a mobile home in Manitowoc County. Roads blocked off near the home, only certain cars allowed to get through during this investigation. This salvage yard, stocked with cars, is also being searched by authorities. The yard is owned by Avery's family. It's called Avery's Auto Salvage Towing. Here's a wider view of the yard that's filled with thousands of cars. Authorities are taking a closer look at this salvage yard, which is near Avery's home.
All right, so there was that one. Close both of those. We'll come back to Steven again. All right, so as you can see, the salvage yard is huge. But what happens? Theresa's SUV is found by the cousins of Theresa Halbach within a short time frame. I can't remember what it was. I think it was like within an hour or something, half hour. They found the car so quickly after they were finally given permission, not finally, but after they were given permission to go onto the property and start searching. It's just very interesting that two of Theresa Halbach's family members, part of their search party, knew exactly where to go once they had the ability to step foot on the salvage yard, because they have been conducting all their searches, in local, in the community throughout, but not on the salvage yard because it was private property. They needed permission from the Averys in order to search. So, like I said, they find this car in a very short amount of time. They go right to it. Theresa's cousin, calls in the about the car and says, she found it, and she's asking, is this Theresa's? And then she says it's really weird because look, it's buried. It is buried. They tried to look, whoever put it there tried to make it look like it was buried, or tried to hide it. So that's how it was found. That's her car, with branches all over it, wood, whatever, boards on there. So eventually, also on the property, during their 8-day search of 8 days of full possession of the Avery property with no Avery in sight to see anything being planted, potentially, human bone fragments were located in a burn pit and a burn barrel. They were, I believe, in 2 separate spots on the location, except I believe the burn pit itself was actually off of the Avery property, like just outside the Avery property, and it was on the Manitowoc property, but I can't remember, and we will have to get into that later because my memories on that are fuzzy. All right, so they also find a key to the RAV4 that was in Steven's, I think it was his bedroom, or it was in his trailer, in his home. They found the key, like I said, it just jumped out when they shook the little end table or cabinet that they had, and here came the key with no DNA of any of Theresa's or anybody else, just Steven's. So that's suspicious in and of itself too. And then the blood, there was BLOOD on the inside of the car near the steering wheel column, like where you turn the keys, and also under the hood latch. And according to their experts, the state's experts, it was a match. The DNA is a match to Steven's. Take that for what you will, because I don't necessarily believe that the investigation was on the up and up. So there was a point in time too, and we'll have to get to it, where there was a vial of Steven's BLOOD that the defense team got in their discovery from, it was taken from when Steven was incarcerated. They had his sample, so they could have at any time placed it somewhere to frame him. So it's not unheard of, guys. It happens often. And the people that are like, oh, that's crazy, a whole town conspiracy, that's nuts. It happens in small towns That's very often, it is multiple people within small towns. And it doesn't have to be a whole police department. It could be 2, 3 people. It could be just a couple people that are a little shady and, borderline cross the line each time, and then they get bolder and bolder, and then they start to plant evidence. Just saying, especially in small towns. That's where it happens. All right, so I'm going to go through this timeline. We have October 31st, 2005, Theresa goes missing. November 3rd, the family reports that Theresa went missing. November 5th, Halbach's cousin finds Theresa's car. So about 6 days after she goes missing, they find the car. Avery, or 5, 6 days, whatever. Avery tells media he's being framed on the 8th of November in 2005. So he gets the impression that he's being framed. And that might have even been the interview that we saw, that he said that, where he felt like he was being railroaded. And there's other media where I've seen him say that he feels like he's being railroaded by the cops again. So then the very next day, after Avery says that he feels like he's being framed by law enforcement, he's arrested the very next day for possession of firearms as a felon. Because he's a felon, he's not supposed to have firearms. And they found firearms in his trailer. So therefore, they're obviously his. I mean, look at this. When we look at pictures of the salvage yard, of their homes, they're not the cleanest folks. These homes are cluttered, messy. I doubt that it's all his things in there. If it's like a family trailer or something, I don't know if he's even renting it or owning it. I have no idea. So it's not unheard of that there might be firearms within a trailer that he's living in on a family property where, a lot of them probably have firearms. And all of them are living there. But anyways, they say it was Avery's, so he's arrested for possession. And then so do you see how they do this? Because we went over this in Wisconsin versus Zachariah Anderson, how the not the prosecution, but law enforcement tried to get him on lighter charges first, so then they could charge him for the homicide later. So they get him and put him in prison for stalking first, and then months later, oh yeah, let's charge him with the homicide. We still don't have proof, but let's do it. So it seems like this is happening, it's happening more and more, or we're just becoming more open to realizing that it's happening. Anyways, so firearm possession, okay, he gets arrested the 15th of November. He is charged. He's still in prison. He's charged now. So besides the possession of firearms, he's charged with first-degree homicide and mutilation of a corpse. So, and I think that's because she was burned. And they found her body has never been found. No evidence of a crime scene has ever been found. No real evidence to prove how her life ended. No real testing to prove that. So we're just supposed to take the state's theory that Avery did it in his trailer that was obviously never cleaned and had no spatter anywhere. And same with the garage, but we'll get into all that later too. All right, so Avery settles with Manitowoc County on February 14th of 2006 because at this point he's sitting in prison. He needs funds for his defense, and at this point he can't wait for $36 million. Who cares that his rights were violated and he was in prison for 18 years for a crime he didn't commit? not to mention the crime he's in prison for now. Let's just, you know, who cares? Let him settle for $400,000. That's all his life, his 18 years is worth to the city, because he needs money for his defense funds. And that's basically the gist of it. So then March 2nd, 2006, Brendan Dassey is charged. So he gets charged later. He makes multiple statements, and his very first statement is that he doesn't know Theresa, hasn't seen her, doesn't know anything about her. And then when he's finally brought into the office, into the police office to, or department, I mean, to be interviewed, he tells them what they want to hear, because investigators can be master manipulators, and Brendan Dassey had a very low IQ and could easily be manipulated into saying what they wanted him to say. And it's evident when we watch that video. We will watch it together for sure. So March 2nd, Brendan is charged with same things: homicide, false imprisonment, and the mutilation of a corpse. So he's charged with the same things. Avery is then on the 18th of March. Dogs are all crazy because my boyfriend's home. All right, so Avery on the 18th of March is convicted by a jury of homicide, and then so April 25th, Dassey is also convicted for the same charges. So as you can see, this happens so fast. And this is a huge red flag, like I've said, especially when you arrest someone so quickly after something happens, because you don't have time to fully investigate. So how can you even say after 15 days that you have your man? If you haven't done all your testing and all your DNA tests aren't even back by then, I guarantee. So I don't know. That is interesting to me. So that's what I have for that. I left the family tree in there in case we wanted to come back to it. I have one more video we're going to watch, which is Avery defending himself after the car is found on the property. They're all short, so no big deal.
Steven Avery is away from the search tonight, staying near Crivets. He says he has no idea why Theresa Halbach's car was found on his family's property.
Do you have any idea how her SUV ended up on your family's land?
You got me. I don't know. I got a hunch. Manitowoc County planning it.
Manitowoc County tells us that's not true. Avery says Halbach has been coming to the salvage yard for about a year as a photographer for a car sales magazine to help the Averys sell cars.
She takes a picture of the vehicle. She writes down the serial number. Then I pay her, and she gives me the book and the paper, what she fills out, and that's it.
The salvage yard is big. Chopper 4 with power zoom shows us how much area investigators have to cover. Avery says he's sure Halbach isn't here.
Do you hope she'll be found?
Oh, yeah. You know, when somebody's missing, that takes a toll on a family.
With crews searching through vehicles on the Avery property, we went to ask Steven Avery what he thinks.
They keep on trying to do something with me. They're trying to find ends. They don't believe none of us. You know, whatever we say, they just don't. We're all liars.
At a late afternoon news conference, Manitowoc County says they're being fair and that crews will continue searching the Avery land.
We're flying in Chopper 4 over Avery Auto Salvage. We want to give you an idea of just how tough this area is to search. Look at all of the cars that are here. Crushed up cars, cars waiting to be crushed. Investigators have a lot of ground to cover. Nearby, they're looking through this retention pond. They sent some divers in there. And look at this area all around the auto salvage yard. Wide open fields that they've had search teams combing.
Alright, so that's it for the videos. We're going to read the missing persons report now. Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Missing person. Reporting officer is Leslie Lemieux. And the reporting person is Karen M. Halbach. She is the mother of Theresa. All right, so location. At approximately 1700 hours on 11/3/05, I began the initial investigation of a possible missing person. The reporting person, Karen Halbach, said that her daughter, Theresa Halbach, had not been seen or heard from since Monday, October 31st. Karen said that it was unusual for Theresa to not have had personal or phone contact with her family or friends for that length of time. Remember, she lived right near her parents on that property there. Karen said that she had been calling around to Theresa's employers and friends. Karen said that her daughter worked as a freelance photographer out of Pierce Photography, a photo studio in Green Bay. Karen said that Theresa was also employed as a photographer for Auto Trader magazine. Karen said the last time Theresa was seen at the photo studio was on Saturday, and the 31st is a Monday, so there we have it. All right, so Karen said the supervisors at the Auto Trader magazine said the last contact with Theresa was a fax confirmation for her workday, which was received on the 31st, so the last day that we know she was seen. Karen said that Theresa lives with a roommate who is Scott Blodorn in the township of Woodville. Karen said that the last time Scott had seen Theresa at home was on Sunday afternoon. Scott had not seen or heard from Theresa since. Scott told Karen that Theresa's vehicle was not on the residence either. I spoke with Scott by phone. Scott said that the last time he had seen her or heard from her was on Sunday afternoon at the house. Scott said Theresa made no mention of any plans to go out of town, and although she worked out of Green Bay, did normally commute and stay at the residence on CTHB, whatever that is, some street or something. All right, so Scott said it was unusual for Theresa to be gone like this without letting anyone know. Scott said that Theresa did have a lot of friends in the Green Bay area. I spoke with Theresa's supervisor, Angela Schuster, at the Auto Trader magazine by phone. Schuster said that the last contact she had with Theresa was a fax received of her workday on 10/31/05. Schuster said the timestamp she could find on the fax indicated 13 hours. So 12:13 a.m. Is that what that indicates? I believe. All right, so Angela said that she knew from the fax that Theresa had rescheduled some of her Saturday appointments for Monday. Angela said she was aware of several photo shoot appointments that were scheduled for Monday. She said that there was a photo shoot scheduled with a Craig Sipple from New Holston, a B. Jonda from Two Rivers. That's Steven Avery. Jonda is that's Barb's, some other name that she went by, Barb Jonda, his sister, before she was Tadich. So another marriage, I'm assuming. All right, so, and also a George Zipperer of Manitowoc. Angela said that she did not know whether Theresa made all of those scheduled appointments at this time, as she had not received a fax confirmation from Theresa as of yet. She said that Theresa was notified of jobs by phone, and most of the communication was by fax or phone. Angela said that she did not have contact with Theresa on a daily basis, only as appointments were scheduled. She said that she was waiting for the call back from the appointments to see if they had indeed been completed. So she never even got to call her boss back for the end of the day to say that her day was over. Angela said that she would have become concerned by tomorrow if she had not heard anything from Theresa. She said that Theresa did have scheduled appointments for photo shoots for the Auto Trader magazine today. Angela said in checking those appointments, she was told that Theresa did not show up. She said that she did not receive any calls or notice from Theresa that she would not be making those appointments. If notified, Officer Weigert of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department of the situation, Weigert and I responded to Theresa's residence and spoke with Theresa's roommate, Scott, and her parents. They said that Theresa did not have a current boyfriend or any recent ex-boyfriend. But remember, Ryan Hilligas is in the picture still in some capacity, and we don't know what her relationship is with this Scott, although they say they're not in a relationship. So Scott allowed, or he says, we don't know. So Scott allowed us to enter the residence and showed us Theresa's room. Scott and several of their mutual friends had located Theresa's most recent cell phone activity report on her computer. So the friends are digging through her computer. So I don't know how good that is for the chain of custody if you're trying to protect the evidence, because many people were on Theresa's computer that morning. They printed out a copy of the cell phone activity, and why did they have access to her cell phone activity, which makes no sense to me, but they printed it out, which showed them that the last cell phone activity was at 2:27 p.m. on Monday, the 31st. It appeared when looking at the minutes used history that Theresa had made phone calls to each of her appointments prior to her arrival that day. I called Theresa's cell phone number. The number went instantly to voicemail with a message indicating that her voicemail was full. Theresa's family said that Theresa had only one cell phone and that she used it for personal and for business use. We located several credit cards and banking statements, a current photograph, and a personal journal for Theresa, which were turned over to us. Scott also allowed us to collect Theresa's computer, which he said was hers alone. So why are you on it? Scott showed me her hairbrush, which I then collected a small sample of hair from her brush for possible DNA if needed. I had left a phone message with the phone number from the George Zipperer appointment requesting that he contact me. I did call the Zipperer residence again and spoke with a male subject who identified himself as George Zipperer. I explained the reason for my call, and Zipperer immediately raised his voice, saying that the auto trader had trespassed on his property and he did not want any more calls from them. Okay. Zipperer said that he was going to contact an attorney if these calls continued. I asked George if he had made an appointment for the photo shoot to sell a vehicle with Auto Trader. George said he did not. He said that that would have been his son. I asked George if he would be possible to speak with his son, and he said that he didn't know where he was at the time. I asked George if his son lives there, and he said yes. George said he works 24 hours a day and maybe talks to his son once a month. Okay, George, buddy. Something doesn't add up there. George said that his son didn't have a cell phone and he did not know how to contact him. So you don't know how to contact your own son. George said that he thought his son was headed to Alaska to look for a job. He said that he was going to head to Alaska next month to do the same. George said that his son works all the time too. George said that the auto trader had been calling him and had not requested their services. George said that he thought that they must be con artists. I asked George if he knew whether or not the photographer had shown up on Monday and was indeed on his property. George said he wasn't sure, but he assumed so because he saw an Auto Trader magazine on the kitchen table. George was unwilling to give me his personal information or his son's. I asked George how to spell his last name, and he spelled it Zizore. I asked George for his date of birth, and he said he forgot it. Interesting. George then said that I had caught him on a bad day. He said that I had now upset his dog, which I could hear barking in the background. George told me that it was a mean dog, and anybody who came on his property better watch out because it could eat them, starting with the feet. Okay, this George person sounds crazy. George said he worked hard and did not have time for this. George said someone was driving up his property now and he had to go. I asked George to contact me if he had any further information. So an attempt, hold on. Yeah, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going on too much longer. An attempt to locate who? To locate the car? To locate Theresa's car was issued. There's her registration number, blah, blah, blah. Theresa was also entered as a missing person. The local news media was notified. They assisted in broadcasting the attempt to locate for Theresa on the nightly news broadcast. At approximately 30 hours on November 4th, 2005, I received a phone call from Theresa's co-worker at Pierce Photography. I spoke with the photo studio owner, Thomas Pierce. Thomas said that the last time he saw Theresa was at the studio on Saturday. Pierce said that both he and Theresa did freelance photography. He said Theresa was not as much of an employee, but co-worker, independent photographer. Pierce said Theresa did not work at the studio every day. He said that Theresa had worked there for the last 3 to 4 years. Pierce said he became concerned today as he had not seen or heard from her since Saturday. He said that he had expected her to at least stop by Wednesday morning, as she was a member of a ladies' business group. Pierce said it was unlike Theresa not to stop in or at least call every few weeks. Pierce said Theresa had always called if she was going to be out of town or unavailable for work. Pierce did say that Theresa had mentioned to him several odd occurrences while working for the Auto Trader magazine. He said Theresa told him she had some problems with a male client over the summer after the photo shoot, and while filling out paperwork and taking payment, she often was invited into homes. He said Theresa said some males became verbally or physically flirtatious, offering her drinks, etc. See, I'm telling you, the line of work she was in was not very safe, especially for a female. Pierce did say Theresa had mentioned she had been receiving multiple calls from an unfamiliar number to her cell phone recently. The caller would never leave a message. Pierce said as far as he knew, Theresa had not answered any of those calls and did not know the caller. Pierce said he remembered one day her commenting when the phone rang, again the same number they just called 5 minutes ago. Pierce said Theresa said that she did not recognize the number and she did not answer it. So she was getting some weird phone calls. At the very least, we know that. So that was basically the first, I don't know, day or two of the investigation, and that report included the missing persons information from the parents, whoever this, and oh yeah, from multiple people, but it was, again, we got to remember that everything that is written in this report is from the perspective of the officer, trying to reiterate it for the person that they're talking about, and it could be lacking accuracy, and we don't know for sure. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to go over the criminal complaint of the of Steven Avery. This is what the actual probable cause affidavit that was used to arrest him for, while he was already in prison, as we know, or jail. He was in jail for the possession of firearms as a felon. So they got him on that only to hold him so then they can get him on the charges they really wanted to stick, which was the homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and false imprisonment or whatever. All right, so Thomas Fassbender, special agent with the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigations, being first duly sworn, states that count 1, first-degree intentional homicide, the above-named defendant, Steven Avery, on Monday, October 31st, 2005, at Avery Road, town of Gibson, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, did cause the unaliving of Theresa M. Halbach with intent to end that person's life, contrary to this Wisconsin statute, a Class A felony, and upon conviction shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life. Count 2, mutilating a corpse. Okay, so he didn't have the false imprisonment, just Brendan does. But, so he has homicide and the count 2, mutilation of a corpse, the above named defendant, between Monday, October 31st, 2005, and Friday, November 4th, 2005, same address, did mutilate, disfigure, or dismember a corpse with the intent to conceal a crime, contrary to this other statute, which is a Class F felony, and upon conviction may be fined not more than $25,000 or imprisonment not more than 12 years and 6 months, or both. Probable cause. Complainant states that he is a special agent with the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigations, and bases his complaint upon the reports and investigations of Deputy Bill Tyson and Deputy Dan Kaczarski, as well as Corporal Leslie Lemieux of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, as well as the statements of witnesses Ken Bennett, Leslie Eisenberg, okay, all these people. The statements of Deputy Tyson, Deputy Kaczarski, and Corporal Lemieux are presumed to be truthful and reliable as made by sworn law enforcement officials. The statements of witnesses Ken Bennett, Leslie Eisenberg, Dr. Donald Simley, Sherry Coolhane, Karen Halbach, and Steve Harrington are presumed truthful and reliable as well. The statements of defendant Avery are presumed truthful and reliable as they were made against his penal interests. Okay, whatever that means. I think he must have given up his right to remain silent. Alright, so complainant is informed that on November 3rd, 2005, Karen Halbach contacted the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Halbach stated that her daughter, Theresa Marie Halbach, had not been seen or heard from since Monday, October 31st. Halbach said it was unusual for Theresa not to have had personal or telephone contact with her family or friends for that length of time. Halbach stated that her daughter was driving a 1999 Toyota RAV4, dark blue in color, bearing Wisconsin license plate ending in 582. Complainant is informed that Corporal Leslie Lemieux of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department obtained Wisconsin Department of Transportation records for Wisconsin license plate ending in 582. The records outlined that the vehicle with Wisconsin license plate 582 is owned by Theresa M. Halbach, and the VIN number for that ends in 044. Complainant is informed that on November 5th, 2005, officers received information from volunteer researchers that they had located a vehicle matching the description of the vehicle owned by Theresa Halbach at Avery Auto Salvage, located on Avery Yard in the town of Gibson, blah, blah, blah. All right, volunteer searchers. So like I said, there were volunteer searchers that asked permission to get, volunteer searchers had received verbal consent to search Avery Auto Salvage Yard by Earl Avery, so the brother, Earl. Law enforcement was provided with a partial VIN and detailed description of the RAV4 located at Avery Yard, Auto Salvage, which was consistent with that belonging to Theresa M. Halbach. During a visual observation of the vehicle, law enforcement officials noted that there were tree branches covering the vehicle and also vehicle parts placed alongside of the vehicle, which looked as though someone had attempted to conceal it. On November 5th, 2005, a search warrant was obtained and executed for Avery Auto Salvage, which included the residences, outbuildings, vehicles, and property. During the execution of the search warrant, Theresa Halbach's RAV4 was found partially concealed. The vehicle was subsequently seized, secured in an enclosed trailer, and transported to the Wisconsin Crime Laboratory for subsequent search and analysis. On November 6, 2005, a preliminary report was received from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab indicating a presumptive positive finding of human BLOOD located within the interior of Theresa's vehicle. Stephen Harrington of the State of Wisconsin Crime Laboratory confirmed that technicians had located the presumptive human BLOOD in the rear cargo portion of the vehicle as well as the ignition area of the vehicle. That's right, it was in the rear cargo area as well as the steering column, right near the steering column, and also the hood latch. Complainant is informed that during a search of the residence of Steven A. Avery, law enforcement also identified a dried red substance which appeared to be BLOOD on the bathroom floor in front of the washer and dryer, and also located items of restraints within Steven Avery's residence, including handcuffs and leg irons. Is that proven that those were really... I might have to look into that. Alright, so complainant is informed that on November 6, 2005, Deputy Kacharski continued to search of the defendant's bedroom located in Wisconsin, where officers located 2 firearms identified as .22 caliber semi-auto rifle and a .50 caliber black powder muzzle loader. Deputy Kacharski noted that there was masking tape attached to the muzzle loader with the name Steve written on it. Oh, okay, so it's his. On November 5th, 2005, Deputy Tyson located a desk in the same room which contained numerous magazines addressed to Steve Avery. Also, on November 6th, 2005, officers carried out a search of a detached garage next to the Steven Avery residence located at the same address we were talking about forever. Okay. Officers located approximately 11 spent .22 caliber long rifle shells casings on the floor of the garage. That doesn't mean that they are part of an unaliving. Complainant is informed that on November 7th, 2005, Deputy Dan Kacharski continued the search of the defendant's bedroom located same address in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. Deputy Kacharski located a Toyota ignition key adjacent to furniture found within the bedroom of the defendant, Steven Avery. Complainant is informed that the key located in the bedroom of Steven Avery's residence was successfully used in the ignition of the Toyota RAV4 owned by Theresa M. Halbach. The key successfully turned the ignition. So, they just happened to find the key in his bedroom with no DNA evidence but his own, Steven's. Alright, complainant is informed that on November 8th, 2025, while continuing to execute the search warrant of the Avery Auto Salvage property located on Avery Road in the town of Gibson, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, law enforcement officials located 2 Wisconsin license plates bearing Wisconsin plate 582 in a scrapped vehicle located on the north end of the salvage yard. The plates were crumpled. The recovered license plates were later identified as the plates that belonged to the 1999 Toyota RAV4 owned by Theresa Halbach. Interesting that the plates were somewhere else and they were crumpled. complainant is informed that on November 5th, 2005, officers located a burn barrel near the residence of Steven Avery, located same place. In that burn barrel, officers located burned clothing and a partially burned shovel. Excuse me. Complainant is informed that on November 8th, while continuing to execute the search warrant of the property located near the residence of Steven Avery, located same place, officers located bone fragments and teeth in a fire pit area located approximately 20 yards south of a detached garage that is located next to the residence of Steven Avery. Officers also located remnants of steel belts of tires that appear to have been utilized as fire accelerants. On November 14th, 2005, Leslie Eisenberg, forensic anthropologist. Did I skip? Oh, I did skip. Sorry. The dog's whining and being a butthead. Come up here, then. He can't get up. Hold on. I let Dexter up. We gotta give him room too. Okay. My dogs fight for space on the couch. Okay, so complainant is informed that on November 8th, while continuing to execute the search warrant on the property, what did they find? Okay, 20 yards. They found the teeth and bone fragments in a fire pit. All right, so the bone fragments located were transported by Dorinda Freymiller, a special agent with the Division of Criminal Investigations, to Ken Bennett, a retired forensic anthropologist who identified the bones as being human in nature. Bennett also determined that based on the characteristics of the ilium bone, the bones are from an adult female human. All right, so on November 14th, 2005, Leslie Eisenberg, forensic anthropologist, described the bone fragments as the obvious result of mutilation of a corpse. Eisenberg stated that almost every bone in the body or body area is present and has been recovered from the scene. The tooth fragments that were located in the burn pit area were delivered to Dr. Donald Simley, who is board certified in forensic odontology and has been practicing forensic dentistry since 1981. Dr. Simley's analysis of the tooth fragments indicated the presence of human teeth. Okay. On November 9th, 2005, the defendant, Steven A. Avery, provided a statement to your complainant indicating that the victim, Theresa Halbach, was at his home on October 31st between 2 and 3 p.m. Steve Avery stated that he resides at the house that we've been talking about this whole time. The defendant denies ever being in the victim's car and indicated that there was no way his BLOOD could be in her car. Steve Avery admitted to having personal contact with Theresa Halbach that day in his driveway outside of his residence. The defendant stated that he paid Theresa Halbach $40 in cash and indicated that Halbach gave him an Auto Trader magazine at that time. On November 14th, 2005, your complainant reviewed a report submitted by Sherry L. Colhane, DNA analyst with the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Law Enforcement Services, Wisconsin State Crime Department, or State Crime Laboratory. Colhane indicates that BLOOD was found in the interior portion of Theresa Halbach's vehicle, including on the driver's seat, the ignition area, the front passenger seat, and the rear passenger door area. And all, okay, so his BLOOD is supposedly in all those areas? The driver's seat, the ignition area where the ignition key goes, the front passenger seat, the rear passenger door entrance, plus the latch, and in the rear, the trunk or whatever. Right? So they're saying it's everywhere, but I don't remember that ever being part of the case, that it was at all over the car. Just the couple areas. Anyways, so the ignition area, front passenger seat, blah blah blah. And it all matches the DNA profile for the defendant, Steven A. Avery. Culhane also indicates that DNA material found on the Toyota ignition key itself, seized from the bedroom of Steven A. Avery, matched the DNA profile of the defendant, Steven A. Avery. But, like I said, there was no other DNA on that key. So, not even Theresa's? That would make no sense. No sense whatsoever. And if there was a burn pit, why wouldn't you burn the key? That doesn't make any sense to me either. So Culhane's report further indicates that BLOOD found in the rear cargo area of the Toyota RAV4 was analyzed and found to match DNA found upon a wild cherry Pepsi can recovered from the front console of the vehicle. Culhane indicated that both DNA samples originate from the same female, which your complaint believes to be the victim, Theresa M. Halbach. So it's her BLOOD in the rear cargo area. And Stevens is apparently all over the car. But she's the victim, and we only have one little tiny spot of hers. Culhane indicates that both DNA samples come from Halbach. On November 15th, 2005, in a preliminary report, Culhane indicated to your complainant that the partial DNA profile developed from the charred remains is consistent with the female DNA profile developed from the human blood strain in Theresa Halbach's vehicle, as well as the wild cherry Pepsi can also located in her vehicle. And this was signed by somebody. Oh, Thomas Fassbender. That's right. That's his it says sworn affidavit, Thomas Fassbender, and that is Kenneth R. Kratz, who is the really obnoxious district attorney of that time. And he really had it out for Steven, it seemed, and Dassey. But we'll get into that in future episodes. The next episode, I think we'll do the investigation. We'll get in more in detail in that and look at, eventually we'll look at Steven's, his interrogation with police, and Brandon's too. So we'll look into all of those when we continue on this long saga of the real truth behind making a murderer. So I thank you so much for taking the time to read these with me and go over this story with me. It's so interesting to go over these, I think, and it's really helpful to talk about these things, especially when we suspect that there's corruption and crime going on by the very individuals who are supposed to be stopping the crime. So it's one of those things that we need to talk about, and we need to stop saying we're all conspiracy theorists because we say that it happens, because it is happening and happens in many police departments, many good departments out there too, but it happens, and we have to be if there's no one policing the police, then they have unfettered power, and that is not good. So we need to also make sure that they are doing things the correct and the right and the legal way, so that when they do arrest someone, it's the right person and we're not putting the wrong person in prison, and B, we're not going on these witch hunts or railroading certain individuals because they have civil suits against us, because, that's how the world works. But anyways, all right. So on that note, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.